So your prognosis on the Montreal Canadiens this year?
They have a good team.
Yeah.
I don't think that they will win the Stanley Cup this year, but it's promising for in a couple of years from now. They have a good basis with Caulfield and Suzuki, but still there's a lot of work to do.
It's fun to watch.
It's fun to watch. Caulfield is spectacular, Suzuki also, so it's fun to watch, and even if they lose by 1 or 2 goals, you never know how it will end, so it's incredible.
Because in the past, when they were down 2-0, you went to bed.
Yeah,
You knew
that's right. You close the TV and do something else.
I wanted to ask you, since you have been in power, you adopted Bill 96 and Bill 21, and I want to give you a chance to address the English-speaking community because that, and during the election campaign, Martin Koskinen said you wanted to reach out, and that's why I wanted to give you an opportunity because many Anglophones feel, you know, we've learned French, our children are bilingual, but we've done a lot for French, and these bills came along and they felt angry. Do you have an answer for that?
Okay, I think that both Bill 21 and Bill 96 are balanced. They are compromises that we made between 2 extreme positions. If I start by Bill 21, we all remember the Parti québécois who wanted to forbid the religious sign for almost all people, including in healthcare. What we decided to do is to forbid religious sign only for people being really in an authority position. So I think it's a compromise, and I think it would be better not to reopen this. And we don't go as far as what's happening, for example, in France. So I hope that this compromise will stay. And of course, some people would have liked that we go more, some less, but I think we're right in the middle. For Bill 96, for me it's about the same. The big discussion was about colleges, the CEGEPs. The Parti québécois wanted to apply the Bill 101 to colleges, so which would have mean that we would have to cut about half of the places in our CEGEPs, because right now there are about 17% of places in colleges that are on the Anglophone side, and as per the definition of who can go to school in English, there are about 9-10%. So it means that we would need to cut half of the places. So what we said and the position we took was right in the middle, to say, all right, why don't we freeze that at 17%? And we have to remember that in Montreal, it's 25% of the places, and for pre-university, it's 47% of the places that are on the Anglophone side. So what we say is that, yes, still some Francophone and newcomers will have the right to go to colleges, but we want to stop the expansion.
But when you were in Tunisia, you said the perception of especially on Bill 96, is actually hurting business.
Right.
And you talked about taking out advertising to counter those perceptions. Have you also thought of are you going to take out such advertising?
Okay.
And have you excluded going? I remember when Mr. Lucien Bouchard went to New York and to Toronto to speak to English Canada about the bills that are being adopted here. Do you have any plans of that nature?
Yeah, what I want is to first explain the situation in Montreal. I want to give you only a few figures. 40 years ago, there were about 60% of Francophones on Montreal Island. 20 years ago, it was 55%. Right now, it's 48%. So every year, there's a decrease in the percentage.
You mean French mother tongue, right?
No, French as the most talked language at home.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
But if we take, for example, the most talked language at work, it's 55%. So it's still also decreasing, and I think we have no choice but to make sure for the future of French to take some measures. And I think, again, Bill 96 was a balanced bill. Some people did a bad interpretation of the law. For example, Anglophones, they can still have all their services in healthcare in English. Nothing is changed with Bill 96. Also, some people said, because of the documents that we will be sent to newcomers in French after 6 months, it means that we think that it takes 6 months to learn French. That's not true. What we say is that about everywhere in the world, for example, in Italy, day one, they would receive all documents in Italian. What we say is that we let people 6 months to find people to help them for the traduction, for reading the documents in French. And I think the government has to be a model. If we want really to save French, we have to be a model. So I think it's reasonable. We're also asking large companies, federal companies, to apply the Bill 101. So, for example, the Bank of Montreal already accepted to apply the Bill 101, but some companies like Air Canada or the CN refused, and Mr. Trudeau is still thinking about it with the C-13 bill in Ottawa. Mm-hmm. But why would we apply the Bill 101, the Charter of French, at Bombardier, for example, but not at Air Canada? It doesn't make sense, and I think it's important to keep French. And I think that even most of the Anglophones, they want that we protect the long-term presence of French in North America.
So it is not enough just to reduce the decline in French. I think this is something you are interested in. Just because of a conversation I had with
Right.
Mr. Robert in an
Right.
interview. You want to reverse the decline.
Right. Like I told you, if we look at the percentage of people speaking French mostly at home, it's 48% on the island of Montreal. So I would like to see that again over 50%. It used to be 60. So I would like to reverse the trend and have a majority of people in Montreal speaking French.
And does that mean just applying Bill 96, or
No.
does it mean more measures?
It means also more measures regarding the newcomers. We started already to increase the criteria about the knowledge of French for newcomers. So we will continue to do that because, of course, we don't have many children, French or English here. So immigration is very important. And if we continue to have them 50-50, which I mean 50% only speaking French, of course we will continue to see a decline. So it's important to increase the percentage of newcomers speaking French if we want to protect. And it's a question of survival of the language in long term.
And so there would be new measures?
But we will continue to increase the percentage of newcomers speaking French.
Okay, all right.
Of course, we have some discussion also to have with Mr. Trudeau. For example, it's not acceptable to see thousands and thousands of people coming via the Roxham Road, and it takes 2 years before the federal government decide if they are really some refugees or not. So we really need to do something about Roxham Road.
There was a letter that was published. I sent it to your colleague, about Lori. Lori was going to leave Quebec. I think she left Quebec. Do you have a message for people that like that, who feel they don't feel comfortable in Quebec because of these laws now, and they're thinking of leaving? Do you have a message for them?
First, I think that Anglophones were very important in the history of Montreal and of Quebec. And they have all the rights, and I will make sure that they continue to be able to get all services in English for education, for healthcare, for all services. Now, if we want to still have people speaking French in 50 years from now, we need to put measures to protect French. And I think it's a plus for everybody, because all large cities in US, they try to be different. And I think that Montreal, Quebec is different. People from somewhere else, they like to come to Montreal. They have the Francophone Festival in the summer. And really, people appreciate this touch of France in North America. So we have to keep that. And for that, we have to work together.
Are you all right for the video? Do you want to do more, or you're good?
It's up to you.
Okay,
You've got one
all
more
right.
pressing question.
So people should not leave, is what you're saying. Like people who are thinking of leaving, although we know many times people say they're going to leave, but they do not actually leave. But a person like Laurie, those persons, they should feel sick. They should feel they have a future here.
I've got friends in the English community, and they love Montreal because it's a fun city, because of the quality of life. So it's different than Toronto, for example. So I think we have to see French as something that is a plus for everybody. There's a lot of culture in Montreal also. So I think we have many things to offer. And for the economy, I think that we have the lowest greenhouse gas per capita in North America, in Quebec. So people here in Quebec are really pro-environment. We have also programs that are better than anywhere else for poor people. So I think that there are plus for everybody in Montreal and in Quebec.
Montreal still is hurting after the pandemic. And there's a perception that, and Mr. Fitzgibbon mentioned this in his scrum after the cabinet announcement,
Right.
that he wanted to eliminate the hyphen between Montreal and Quebec, because there's like two Quebecs. There's Montreal and there's Quebec, and Montreal's economy is still suffering. You walk around here, there's still not as many people coming to work downtown. What do you have in mind for helping Montreal?
Okay. First, I think it's important to look at the fundamental of the economy. It's going better. If we look at the GDP per capita, we're growing faster here than in Toronto or in Ontario. So it's better. Of course, because of the number of people working from home instead of going to downtown Montreal is suffering. Restaurants are suffering, but it's same in Toronto, same everywhere. But I think we'll have to get used, unfortunately, to that. Maybe some offices will be changed for housing, because people will continue to work from home. And I think that there are some advantages. It's a major change in our type of society, but it's something that we'll have to accept.
Okay. One of the things that you promised during the election was an income tax cut.
Right.
On n'entend plus parler de ça.
Yeah.
We hear about
Yeah.
the $400 and the $600 checks, and the money for the seniors, I think, will
Right.
be in Mr. Girard's update,
Right.
I believe. Are you still intending to cut income tax, and when?
Okay, absolutely. We will respect all our promises. Our promises were about, in 2022, we will give a check of $400 to $600 and $2,000 to people of 70 years old and more. In 2023 will cut taxes. So it means in the budget of the spring 2023, so in a few months from now, we'll start cutting income taxes. So we'll respect all the promises we made during the electoral campaign. I think it's important to reduce income taxes. If we want to continue reducing the difference in the GDP per capita between Quebec and the rest of Canada, it's important that we be more competitive on income taxes, and unfortunately, we are higher than in other provinces.
During the election campaign, you said the only people that were interested in electoral reform were a few intellectuals.
Right.
We're seeing more and more pressure. Is it still excluded to reopen that file? You saw Mr. Duhem on the radio this morning with PSPP supporting Mr. Duhem wanting an office and changes in the way that the elections. Is there any way you're going to reopen that?
First, we have to be careful when we listen to Mr. Duhem and Mr. Plamondon. We know right now that the DGEQ, the
Elections
Quebec, will give $1.5 million a year to each of the four parties, including Mr. Duhem. So it's a lot of money. I would have liked to have this kind of money when I started the CAQ. And at the National Assembly, we have a model where in each of the 125 ridings, the one having the most votes, they represent the riding. And I don't have anything against the proportional representation. There are some advantages, so you need to more work together, but people are used to the actual way of voting, which means that they have their own MNAs. So, of course, if we had proportional vote, we would have only 75 ridings. So it means larger ridings and 50 MNAs, deputy elected by a list. So we have to explain that. And I think what I saw in the last few years is that it's not in the top priorities of Quebecers. So that's why we will not change that.
Koskinen said something very interesting. He said, Anglophones need to understand, for example, the compromises that you made on language between the more hardline, and you said you compromised. He said Anglophones need to understand that if Quebecers don't feel secure in their language and culture, this could lead to the rise of the independence movement again. I found that very intriguing. And on the weekend, we saw Mr. PSPP saying, you fear the rise of the PQ.
Okay.
He said that to Jocelyn Richer.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
First, I don't fear the PQ. I respect the PQ. I respect all the four parties. What is important to say is that Martin was right saying that Francophones, they have to feel secure in order to work together, because French will always be vulnerable in North America. And I had the chance to speak with Emmanuel Macron and different leaders last week, leaders from Europe and Africa, and they see the same challenge to protect French via English, that via internet and different channels that are more and more present. And young people, they switch to English faster than the older people. So I think it's important, if we want to work all together, Anglophones, Francophones, newcomers, it's important that the Francophones feel that there's a future for French. And I think, yes, it's a compromise to say we'll protect French without the independence of Quebec, without going as far as saying newcomers will not have access to colleges or whatever drastic means that are suggested by the Parti québécois. I think it's important that we all accept those compromises, including the Anglophones, and work together. Be proud of our economy, of our education system, of our healthcare system, about the way we reduce greenhouse gas. So we have to work on that. And at the same time, I don't intend to touch again the religious sign. I hope that it's closed and that we turn the page. And but French, we will always have to take action because it's decreasing. It's decreased. Since 20 years, we went from 55% to 48% of francophones on the island of Montreal. So there's something, we have to change this trend.
And you want Anglophones to understand that.
And I would like that Anglophones understand that it's normal that people will, and I know it was, some people didn't like what I said about Louisiana, but I wouldn't like to see Quebec in 50 years from now as Louisiana, which would mean that French will become folklore. I really want that we keep French really present in Quebec.
And Anglophone should be part of that, should be happy.
And I think that Anglophone, first, they continue to receive their services and in English, and they are part of this culture that is including people like Leonard Cohen, we're so proud of Leonard Cohen, and he's singing in English. So it's part of the Montreal culture.